Welcome, everyone, to a live. Let's do it live. Going live episode of Brown and Orange Weekly. I'm your co-host Clarence Wilson, and with me, as always, is my guy, that dude, my man, James Elfris. James, shaking, man.
Hey, how we doing tonight? It's Monday night. This is the first night we have not had any football for a while. So how you feeling? Should we dive back into a couple weeks ago where we were talking a little Browns football and we were really excited about the game? And let's maybe dive into that outcome a little bit. I know it's a sore subject, but it's something I think we need to address.
We were, full disclosure, we were going to go live during the fourth quarter of that game, the second half, fourth quarter, at some point, and it just got so ugly, and there was nothing good that I had to say about anything happening, and I'm sure James was the same way. So to save myself from just coming on here and dropping a bunch of swear words, it was better. We thought better not to record after the playoff game. um, Now, in hindsight, we can look back at it, and that's what I did the next day. Like, I was pretty upset. I'm not gonna lie. Watching it, the slipper was gonna fall off at some point. I just did not expect it to be so harsh when it did. 45-14 was not what I was expecting. I fully expected a Browns win. But even if they didn't win, kind of like I said, they were playing with house money. And even if they lost, I was not expecting it to be that much of a decisive loss, I guess. What was kind of your thoughts on what we witnessed against Houston, even though now we've watched Baltimore beat them, and that makes us even more sick. But continue. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, you're right, because the beginning of the game, it sure felt like we've been comparing all year long about the home defense versus the road defense and which one's going to show up in that first half. It sure felt like our normal road defense that was just struggling and couldn't get to the quarterback. Did not put just any pressure at all on Stroud, which we knew as a rookie quarterback, that's something we had to do, and we totally failed at it. I mean, it wasn't even close, Clarence. Like
No.
it looked like he was playing, a middle of the road Big Ten defense, especially that one action play out to the right where once he threw the ball, the receiver wasn't even in the camera shot yet. And you just knew by the way he loaded that throw and put a touch on it. It's like, that guy's going to be open. I think it was Schultz that was open across midfield into the other side of the end zone. But yeah, we just that first half, I know we hung in there, but it just didn't look like we were going to come out of the halftime and be able to stop anybody. Like it didn't matter what we were going to do on offense.
Yeah. It was just a weird, strange game to watch because honestly, that first half when Stroud was finding all these guys wide open, I started getting flashbacks to last year's defense and the year before, where it seemed like all we had was opposite team wideouts running wide open in our secondary. And that's all that basically was, it seemed like, in that basically the entire first half. When Stroud let the ball go, I knew somebody was going to be open. I just didn't expect them to be that damn wide open like they were.
Yeah.
Rough watch. Very rough watch. But
it almost felt like the Colts game when we were at Indy, where Lynch was just tearing us up. And that's not a guy that you want, performing well against what we thought was an elite defense this year. Now, statistically, I think, we have some things to talk about where we had a lot of success when you look at the body of the work of the entire season. But man, on the road, it was just I think we averaged, and when I say we, I mean as a team. I'm talking pick sixes, special teams, touchdowns given up. We averaged 31.3 points a game given up on the road, and that's just not going to work. It doesn't work
Mhm.
regular season. It sure as hell ain't going to work in the postseason against better teams. That was very, very unfortunate this year to look back on that and to have that. I mean, Clarence, the guys had most of the starters were off at the game in Cincy, so you were trying to let some bodies heal. But as you've seen, even from Baltimore and San Francisco this past weekend, after being off that bye, it's one thing to be fresh. It's another thing to gear up and actually play at the intensity level that you need to play at for a playoff game. And we definitely did not do that. It was definitely not there.
No, it was. I mean, and it's one of those things that, like, you know, I'd like to go back and look at how many times during this, five, six, 7 game Flacco run that, that we asked, how can we keep winning like this? We're throwing the ball 40 times a game, running the ball, 40 plus times a game. We're running the ball 20 times a game. I'm not sure how we keep winning, but we keep winning. But can we keep doing it? Can we keep, winning this way? I guess we found out that no, we could not keep winning this way. There needed to be a little bit more of an emphasis on a run game. But again, it's hard to fault Stefanski and the play calling when, slinging that thing 45 times a game was kind of what got us in the position to even be in the playoffs.
Right.
So, again, the question was, how long could we keep winning this way? Well, we found out, once you start seeing playoff caliber teams, then things are going to change.
Well, and here's what history told us during the broadcast of the game too. We were the first team in the last 20 years to make the postseason after leading the NFL in turnovers. So we should all sign ourselves up for not making the playoffs next year due to history telling us that if we don't start taking care of the football. Because, third quarter, we were at 24-14. There was 6:14 left in the third. Flacco's driving down on the other side of the field. Threw his first pick six of the game. That was a long return. That was one where he was pressured, got twisted up. Just, I don't know. I think he thought he could get the ball. Was that Njoku, I think, in the corner on that pass play? Way short, hit the defender wide open. And then on the next drive, for the second pick six, did you see the video of Christian Harris and D'Amico Ryans talking on the sideline? I believe it was NFL Films.
Yeah.
Had the audio and video of that.
You want to know what I thought about that? And we've discussed this on previous episodes. So they run that little curl route to either tight end. Most of the time it's Njoku, but I feel like they run that little curl route, and they would run it several times a game because they could not get a run game going. So they run that out. They do that little 5 turn around, catch the ball, 5 yards, because we had 0 running game.
Yeah,
I was just waiting for somebody to jump it. I mean, I was literally just waiting for anybody to jump it because we're not running the ball. And in my eyes, they were doing that because they couldn't run the ball, because they've been doing it for week after week after week. That we've seen that just 5-yard curl. So it was about time somebody jumped it. I think that's probably when I got the most pissed off during the game. When they jumped that route. Shout out to Roger. Shout out Roger first from Cuyahoga Falls.
What's up, Roger?
No,
that pick six, if you did not see the video, D'Amico Ryans was talking on the sideline with Christian Harris, told him basically when that formation comes up to just sit there and wait and read the quarterback's eyes. And it was weird. It was almost like watching, do you remember, you're playing Madden and you see the replay of a turnover, a pick six like that? If you go back and watch the play, you can see him sitting there, literally just not moving, doing what he's told. And then next thing you know, he jumps the route, touchdown. But what I noticed, Clarence, is I want to know when he told him that, because we had a third, I think it was 3rd and 1.
Hold on, tell Roger. Hold on, sorry. One second, James. I accidentally banned Roger, and I didn't mean to.
How in the world do you take that off? Roger,
I'm,
wow. Roger coming in strong. No, we'll have to fix that.
yeah, I'll have to fix that. I'll try and hit him on Twitter. Sorry.
We'll get that
Yeah, that
fixed,
was a
Roger.
complete accident.
But yeah. But going back to that pick six, Christian Harris picks it, goes to the house. It's 38-14 at that point. Game's over. Um, and
yeah, it was.
the rest of it was just kind of, we were playing it out, right? We're just watching.
Yeah, we were just playing it out at that
You know what I
point.
mean? I mean, it felt like a regular season game that just didn't have a lot of feeling behind it. After the entire week, we had the whole week to be excited about it. Like every day you wake up, it's like, man, it's another day closer, another day closer. We're playing on Saturday. We're playing in the early game at 4:30. You see all the tailgating by Browns fans going on outside Houston Stadium. Everybody's excited. You and I have talked all year about the tradition of spending time with your kids now. Some of these younger generation finally getting to be a part of a playoff game and see the excitement of the town, even though it ended up, we didn't get any home games, being on a road game, and then we just fall flat on our face. It's like watching the NCAA tournament. You're like the noon game on Thursday, and you're the higher seed, and you just lost.
Yeah,
That's what it kind of felt like. It felt like a 12-5 kind of upset, so to speak, where a lot of 12s can beat a 5, but it's like, yeah, come out and prove it. And well, they came out and proved it.
yeah, yeah. That was again. It was just hard to watch, to stomach, to everything about it. That game was difficult. I don't know. Again, kind of like our last episode, it was kind of like, we're playing with house money. Um, we're playing with house money, and I wasn't. I don't want to say I wasn't expecting anything, but I was happy the Browns had made it. I expected them to win that game, but even if they didn't, I was not expecting what we witnessed. Then that's the end.
My concern was how many people were picking us. It
Yeah,
was almost like there was an expectation. Even us fans locally, you felt like, you know what, we're gonna win this game. We're supposed to win this game. But if I don't know if you want to feel confident like that, but then it almost felt like there was an overconfidence to it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like
agreed.
the guys on the roster that's been with the team for a while. What do we have? One playoff win, some of them. That were here for the Pittsburgh game,
Mm-hmm.
and we just didn't seem like there just was no sense of urgency the entire game. We weren't the defense. We couldn't stop anybody, so you didn't see all the celebrations and all the swag going on defense that pumps the guys up normally, right? And that's,
Yeah,
I think, the big difference between home and away, and why we were so different on the road. And it was just totally unfortunate. And what's weird for me, I don't know about you, but when the game was over, usually we're real. I mean, I know you mentioned about swearing and pissed and all that, and it was like they beat us so bad. I wasn't even mad. I was more disappointed that we didn't have another game to watch the next week than I was that, we got smoked. Because they
yeah,
did. They just flat out outcoached us, outplayed us. And I think we were, at least for me, I just was reflecting back on like what a fun season it was. Just as a fan and seeing all the other fans on Twitter throughout the year and all the excitement that was happening at the Muni lot and only having one home loss this season. Um, there was so much joy out of this season and watching the players celebrate after the Jets game, clinching the playoffs and go around and high fiving the fans and all the great things that, Joe Flacco said about the city, about the team, and how he came in, and it just felt like a really good fit. It felt good to watch Joe Flacco, somebody standing tall in the pocket, slinging the ball down the field, using so many different receivers within a game. Like there was a lot to think back on, and I think as we sat there slightly stunned at that score on the fourth, those are the kind of things that were going through my mind. There was some appreciation, even though, disappointment, obviously.
Yeah.
So some of the off-season, changes that's happened since, our loss in Houston. They started reviewing the coaching staff that next week. So Alex Van Pelt out as your offensive coordinator. Stump Mitchell out as the running backs coach, which I know is a big fan favorite. And the Lost Beatle, T.C. McCartney. If you asked, I sure as hell didn't know who the hell our tight ends coach was. If somebody asked me, so I didn't know his name, from anything. So there's 3 coaches that are out, and I know it's been reported today by Zach Jackson. The Browns are working to hire Tommy Reese as the tight ends coach. He'll have a role in the overall development of the pass game. His exact title is uncertain, and the hire is not official yet. But Tommy Reese, former Notre Dame quarterback, this year was the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and of course is looking for a job since the retirement of the great Nick Saban. So Tommy Reese looking like he's coming to the Browns staff. What's your thoughts on him? Do you remember much about him as a coach or even in his playing career at Notre Dame?
What was his name? Was he under the Charlie Weiss Notre Dame reign or something like that?
I believe so, yeah. The quarterbacks that I think Jimmy Clausen was there at that, around those times. Yeah, they were not very good. Let's just say that. Not great, but not very good. But obviously Nick Saban sees something in him. And then, now Andrew Barry, Stefanski looking to add him to the staff. So there must be something there they really like.
I mean, I guess I'm not big coordinator, hire, fire these guys, but I do have one question. And this has kind of been bothering me since they fired everyone. Okay, because I'm used to, and you know what? I'm just trying to think back in history. When you're coming off, a playoff run, most of the time your coordinators don't get fired unless you were deficient in one area. They normally get poached by other teams for Dean, love you, brother. Get your Wi-Fi fixed, man.
Yeah. Right. Get rid of that AOL 2.0.
But I guess my question was, if they fire the coordinators, that's fine. But again, my thing was most of the time when you come off a playoff year, unless you were deficient in an area, your coordinators are getting poached. My biggest question was, this seems to all be being done because of Deshaun Watson and trying to maximize his potential, I guess. That's a lot of what I've read. My question is, didn't we just take the whole last offseason to revamp this offense to maximize his potential? Because I remember reading that.
Oh, we did.
And I remember hearing he had input, right?
And I believe the quarterbacks brought in were also to be able to make a easier transition to back him up, so that way you didn't have to change the game plan as much.
Yeah,
if I'm correct.
Yeah, so I guess you know what, that's what confused me about this whole entire thing. You get rid of the coordinators. I guess that's fine. It's their prerogative. But again, I'm used to we're purging coordinators after a 6-11 season, 5-11 season. We're not purging them after a successful playoff run where we spent this prior offseason trying to maximize what we could do with our brand new shiny quarterback.
I mean, I think it's a
So
lot. I think it's a lot to do though with just upgrades. It's who's on the
yeah,
market, right?
true,
Saban
true.
retiring, opens a lot of good coaches out there to look. And I don't know how many are going to be even retained there in Alabama, but if you're looking for a head coach and you got Bill Belichick and now Jim Harbaugh throwing his hat in the ring, those are two pretty good names. So,
True.
and some of the other firings. So I really think and you know how it works with when you first get hired as a coach and Stefanski got in, it was get yourself a coaching staff to start. It's not going to be your final addition, right? It's just enough to fill out your staff, operate your team, but then you're going to have your guys that are out throughout the league or in the NCAA that eventually have openings because coaches get hired to get fired,
Yep.
right? And then you're going to have your guys that you want to bring in um, that you trust. I think that's the key thing, trust. And
Exactly.
I think Flacco's really took Stefanski's playbook and it allowed him to display exactly what Kevin's wanted to do for a while.
Sure.
You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Let me pause you. Let me pause you right there, James. Ladies and gentlemen,
Is there a substitute at the scorer's table?
we're bringing in a very special guest. Way back in the day, old friend of ours. He's back in the game, baby. Here he is,
What's going on, fellas?
our
Whoa.
guy Joey. What's up, man?
Just living the dream. Never got out of the game. Went out, learned some life lessons, grew up, got bigger.
You muted. Somehow you muted.
There we go.
There we go.
Went out, got like I was saying, got bigger, better. And I'm back with Believeland full time. And very exciting stuff, Clarence. Very exciting stuff, James. But it's nice to see your very beautiful faces talking.
Yeah, I'm moisturized. I mean, you have to. It's the winter time, right?
Well, I got the nice
Yeah.
space warmers.
Hey, Clarence, good thing I didn't get rid of my Joey Schneider Blue Land jersey.
There you go. There you go.
It's now active again.
I
love it.
I mean, I was in the Hall of Fame, so it was all right.
I just signed now.
Yes, welcome Joey Schneider into the game, back into the Believe Land family. He never left, but he's back with us. We wanted to have him come on this very special edition, live edition of Brown and Orange Weekly. Bring him back into the fold, and we're just talking end of season Browns, and right now we're on the coaching changes, and I was kind of going off about how it's kind of odd that they do this when they just had brought in, all these people to maximize Watson and James. He brought up a good point. It's like, all right, well, who's out there? Is there somebody better than what we have that we could replace these guys with? What's kind of your thoughts, Joey, as far as the coaching changes?
I mean, I think that Stefanski runs his offense, and I don't really know what Alex Van Pelt was really doing. I don't know if that's I'm sure it's not the right way to phrase it, but I just I don't know. I just don't feel like he was like a huge, integral part of Stefanski's offense. And I think that Joe Flacco was able to run more of Stefanski's offense than Watson was during the season and you can always tell because Njoku had huge numbers. That's how you know that it's a Stefanski offense is when the tight ends are getting big numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then it allows the receivers to to open up more, and then you saw that a few games with Flacco, with Amari Cooper, hitting. I think he had over 100 yards 2 of the 5 or 3 of the 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the Stefanski offense that we were kind of waiting for, and Flacco just, unfortunately, he did hit a wall, but honestly, I'm totally fine with everything that happened. As far as someone being better that's out there, potentially the only thing that really kind of got me was Stump. Why'd they have to get rid of Stump?
Well, you heard the rumors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, rumors are rumors.
I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of heat around Stump possibly being and this came from the OGTG, as they like to call him on 850, Tony Grossi, that Stump might have been a leak. Take that for what you will. A media leak, take that for what you will. I don't normally report on I don't report on anything, period. But I won't normally just come out here and blast something like that without, being coming from a source like Tony Grossi, who's been covering this team, longer than a lot of us have been alive.
If I'm being honest, I kind of feel like that. I think that most fans were really only upset about Stump, and I kind of feel like that may have, I don't have anyone that I would personally name that that would tell me something like that. I do know players on the team,
Mhm.
but no one has said anything to me, anything of that sort. But we don't have conversations like that. I don't ask them
Sure.
for stuff like that. But I kind of feel like that might just be a cop out. But who
Okay.
knows? If it's true, then it had to happen. And if it's a cop out, does it whatever? I think at this point, the season was what it was. A lot of ups and downs. Great for us fans. We got to see the Browns in the playoffs. But I think, and anyone who says, "Oh, it was a fun season," I'm sorry, you're completely full of crap. Like, your goal is to win the Super Bowl. You don't. I can't sit here and go, "Oh, it was a great season." No, a great season would be winning the Super Bowl. Even winning a playoff game, you can maybe sit and say, um, you know, great season. But first round knock out of the playoffs by a team that even though a Stroudless team, a Texans team that absolutely embarrassed you in the first round. Not great, but tough schedule next year. And if they can come back and get to make it to the playoffs again, then we're starting to see that culture change. One good season isn't gonna do it for me, but if they can run it back next year, either improve or get back to get back into the playoffs, then you're starting to see that culture change that we've been hearing about since 1999, and it'll be good stuff.
Well, I think we've saw it, but we've also heard it. Like Joel Patonio in his press conference at the end of the season talked about, this is the best it's ever been as far as culture and wanting to win for the city of Cleveland since he's been here. So when you hear a guy like that make those statements to the media and to the community, that carries a lot of weight because Joel's been here through a lot of losing. So
And I agree with you on that, but I think that there's a difference between a player perspective and a fan perspective. Joe Thomas is a first ballot Hall of Famer who may be the greatest left tackle to ever. You guys hear me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. And there were times when Joe Thomas said, there's a great group of guys, good culture, and they were terrible, and it was just couldn't put good teams together. I think for us as fans of this team, and if we cover the team, I think that what you're looking for is sustainability. to not be okay. We were 11-6 this year. Next year, anything less than playoffs is that's not a winning culture. A winning culture is you're consistently in the mix. You're in the playoffs or you're winning the division. So I love that the players are bought in, and I agree with you there, James, that that it definitely feels different from a player to fan aspect, and for the players wanting to play in Cleveland, wanting to win for Cleveland. But I also feel that it's still a show me. We're in that show me
Oh
stage.
yes, 100%.
You do it again next year, and now now we're on to something. So um I mean, you're not going to see many players outside of the usual divas who are going to badmouth the team, and there's no, and I think that's one thing you can definitely say about the Browns. There is no one on the team that is like that. It is all good vibes in that locker room. But as far as that winning culture, I think that's what most of us are waiting to see. Okay, 11-6, we made the playoffs. Yes, there were a lot of fun times this year. But next year now, don't want to say, wait till next year, but now we're waiting until next year, and we're going to be seeing if that tradition of winning can continue over, and we start seeing this culture change into a winning franchise.
Yeah, and I think I totally agree. As far as prove it mode, or we still have to do it to show sustainability. We need to back it up next year with that tougher schedule, based on who we're going to be playing. Hell, we might even be playing the Eagles over in London or Germany as one of our scheduled games. And one team, just even in our division, guys, Pittsburgh made the damn playoffs. That's the example between Pittsburgh and Baltimore, and I know we don't want to admit it, but in the AFC North, they have set the standard, and we finally have achieved that standard this season and went through a lot to get there. But then also, if we want to compare the words that were used throughout the season, as this is a cardiac kids type team, which they were, unfortunately for the cardiac kids, the next season they went 5-11 and missed the playoffs. So that's something to really think about, especially in our division, that is going to get back Joe Burrow down in Cincinnati, who also still was able to maintain a winning record. It's going to be an absolute dogfight, and somebody's got to get in that basement again. And I know damn well we don't want our Browns down in that basement because we were living down there for way too many years, way too long.
Our schedule next year is no joke. Like, I feel like this was a prime year. If we could have avoided injuries, I feel like this was a prime year for us to make any kind of moves. Um, even with the injuries, I would have thought that maybe Flacco or could have carried us a little bit deeper because next year it's gonna get rough out here. It's gonna get real rough with the AFC West. Um, they play what, the AFC West. They play the NFC East, and then they also have a game against Miami, and they also play the Saints as well. So that's a dogfight. In the NFC East, you got obviously Philly and Dallas. Problem. In the AFC West, obviously you've got these still playing Kansas City Chiefs, and whoever goes to San Diego. Oh, sorry, not San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers. Whoever goes there, they have a pretty decent squad set up. And then, as you already said, we already play in the toughest division in the damn NFL. So walking into next year, it's not going to be a cakewalk whatsoever. And I'm a little leery. If we don't, there's not going to be time for rust. Ain't gonna be no time for no rust. There's not gonna be time for anything. We need to get out of the gates and go.
Yeah, we definitely need to not try to recapture what we did this season because it was an absolute anomaly. It's just you can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say something that for some reason, you know what? I rehooked up all my studio equipment, and didn't give it a test run first, so things are.
Is that the rust we were talking about, Clarence? We can't have any rust here.
Yeah, Joey. I
No
said
audio
no
rust.
rust.
Oh, I'm gonna be rusty. But just to kind of hit on a couple of things you guys said, yeah, next year Clarence is going to be very tough. We have a very, 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 very tough schedule. Cincinnati's going to be no joke. That defense is going to be just as good as they were this year. And if Joe Burrow is 100%, I mean, just put him in a hyperbaric chamber for the next year until don't let him. He doesn't need to play in. He could do like one drive in the last preseason game, and that's it, and he should be okay. But it's going to be it's best division of football. Yep, and people keep saying, how do the Steelers do it? It's a winning culture. They got a great head coach. They're able to plug guys in, and they do it with divas.
Mhm.
I mean, let's not pretend that George Pickens isn't a diva here or Kenny Pickett. I mean, and God, they made it. They made it to the playoffs with Mason Rudolph. Who would have thought that? That's just the culture. Any player that goes to Pittsburgh buys in, and that's what we need here in Cleveland. Whether obviously, if you're a Cleveland fan, you hate the Steelers, you really hate the Ravens, and you don't care about the Bengals because they're the Bengals. But I respect everyone in the AFC North. I respect all the fans of the AFC North, and it's next year is going to be a dogfight in a lot of these games. The one game is when we play next year we play the Eagles, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eagles and Cowboys.
I am praying to God that Jason Kelsey's got one more in him. That man is a national treasure. I do not care what anyone says. I put a tweet out earlier today. It was, how is there any human being that doesn't love Jason Kelsey? Yeah, raised in Cleveland, adopted by Philly, and loved by the world. That man is absolutely he is just a joy to watch, and especially myself being a former offensive lineman and defensive lineman. Special place in my heart for Jason Kelsey, but and Joel Batonio, Joe Batonio as well, because I was a guard as well. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be brutal, and Clarence, like you said, Cowboys, Eagles, 6 games against three of the best teams, the Chiefs, and then
Dolphins, Charger. Like,
I mean, you're talking right there. That's 11 games between the division and outside the division that are going to be
dogfight.
they're going to be dogfights. And I mean, look, how many games? The Browns lost a bunch of games this year that we thought were gimmies. I thought the Rams was a win, easy. There was a bunch of games that they should have, would have, could have, but at the end of the day, 11-6 was a good record. The 5th seed, and a couple of if the Ravens weren't absolutely just steamrolling everyone, a couple of losses here or there, and the Browns had a chance to win the division. But I am very, very excited to see what is ahead for the Cleveland Browns. What coaching changes will be made. The draft is coming up. I hate Andrew Berry and his drafts, and let me tell you why, real quickly, because I am the draft guy. I am the draft guy. I do reports for probably the first 4 rounds on about 120 to 150 different players. And I think there is a very good possibility that the wide receiver Polk from Washington will be there early in the 2nd round. And I would love if the Browns tried to trade up and get him. The Browns, to me, I think that they need some more help in the receiving core. and that would be a massive get for them. But Barry, he doesn't like trading up. He'd rather trade back and try to find those late round gems. So
It's not working. Breaking news really quickly. Per Adam Schefter, the Titans are working to finalize a deal to hire Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan as their next head coach, per league sources. For those that don't know, Brian Callahan is the son of Browns offensive line coach Bill Callahan. So that means we could be looking for an offensive line coach here because I don't know. If my son got a job somewhere and I was coaching in the NFL, I'd probably go coach with him.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely that possibility. I know it's been talked about. The coach that came in and interviewed from the Seahawks, I know was somebody that when they've been hired or when they've been interviewing some of these guys, that may not be for the exact position that you think. So I think they were covering their bases on that. So yeah, we're gonna have to let that play out and see who falls where on that. But that I don't know what that does for the Bengals offense. I don't know who they're going to plug in there, but it won't matter because I think you got Joe Burrow and you're fine.
Yeah.
well, I think that I think sometimes you look at a head coach and it's not just about that coach himself, it's about who he can bring with him. And obviously he can bring, Brian can bring Bill with him, and Bill would have an opportunity to work with Orlando Brown, right? Orlando Brown Jr.
I think so on the Titans, yeah.
Oh no, on the Titans. Sorry, not
Titans. Yeah,
Titans. Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm sorry, you know what? Even if it's the Titans, if I'm Bill Callahan, I'm staying. I'm not going to Tennessee. The hell, come on. Let your son build his own legacy, Bill. You stay here in Cleveland where you're loved. I don't want to hear this. You got a great old line. You got an alligator wrestler at your right guard. You got a Hall of Famer at your left guard. You promised Big Thanos, DeJuan Jones, that he would be a star if he listened to you. He busted his ass for you. Make him a star. You stay here in Cleveland where you're loved. That's my message to Bill Callahan.
Bill, I hope you're listening, but I'm sure if this is all shaken down, you're probably on the phone with your son, and hopefully you're not making flight plans to Tennessee. Just stay here in Cleveland. But yeah, man, I don't know. That'll be just more often. That'll be more coaching staff turnover that they'll have to deal with, and especially with Bill Callahan, who's one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coach in the NFL. Be a tough loss for them, especially with the shakeup that they've kind of been through. I wanted to ask you guys this. We're coming up towards the end of our time here, but I wanted to ask you guys this. Now that the season is over, best moment, worst moment. I'm gonna go first just quickly because I was attending the best and the worst moments of the year. Worst moment, I don't think anybody can, in my mind, if you don't agree with this, you're not a Browns fan. I'm sorry. Worst moment, Nick Chubb. In my eyes, and I was there. It was the weirdest, surreal. I was sitting in those stands, kind of out of it for the rest of that quarter. Just kind of trying to figure out what the hell happened. Best moment, I was at that Jets game, man. Like, knowing that we were going, it was just a party inside that stadium. I got in with a paper ticket. Just the whole thing was.
You're so proud of that, and I love it.
What's a paper ticket?
Exactly.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
You're right. You know what? I think I'm like a couple years younger than you guys. I remember paper tickets too.
Oh, I'm not sure if you heard, Joey, but yeah, a friend of mine dropped off. He was like, "Oh, I got tickets. I'm gonna drop off a ticket." I'm like, "Drop off a ticket? What you mean drop off a ticket?" And he showed up with the ticket, and he's like, "All right," he dropped it. He's like, "Oh, I'll meet you down there." Nah, bruh. we all going together because when this ticket don't work, I'm gonna be standing right next to you when this goes down.
You got the
But sorry, yeah,
you got the last paper ticket in Browns history.
man, man. But yeah,
Just so
let me
you
kick it to
know,
y'all.
just off to my left, I have a big container full of all my ticket stubs that go back to the 80s.
Oh wow. I got a drawer full of them, you know, Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and yeah, I haven't looked through it in forever, but I don't know the last time I added one to it, so that'd be nice to add one to it in 2024. A nice paper ticket.
I was shocked. I thought it was gonna be I thought it was gonna be the folded up piece of paper. It was an actual ticket. 2
That-
seconds. 2 seconds.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I wish they would still print them out for you if you wanted it.
I think, yeah, I mean, you know what, and that's, yeah, see, the great thing about that is you can take, you can bring, your kid to a game, a Guardians game, a Browns game, a Cavs game, it's, get a poster, frame the ticket with the poster, and that's like a keepsake that they can have forever, as opposed to, you hold your phone out, beep, and I get it. It's it's convenient. It's great, and I have no problem with that. But you should still be able to get paper tickets fairly easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would I always enjoyed that. I used to have a couple posters with like some games I went to. But as far as your question, Clarence, worst moment was Nick Chubb. I don't think that there's any question about that. James, is that your worst moment too?
Yeah, I mean it's there.
Mm.
It's a loss at Pittsburgh. It's a loss of your best player, one of the best players in the league, let alone your team. The loss to Baltimore at home after poor DTR gets like no time to be prepared. Even though the backup's supposed to always be ready, it's a rookie's first start. That was a tough position to watch him be in this season. But I'm with you on the Jets game. That was to me that was a celebration of the entire season.
Yep.
It was a Thursday night game, so people were geared up, not going to work on Friday. The weather was nice, so you were fortunate there too. So it was the fireworks that you saw, the introductions, all the lights in the stadium. It felt like
Mhm.
a Cavs playoff game where you saw that excitement and energy. And it's long overdue and well deserved by the fan base to enjoy a night like that.
I agree with that, but I think that instead of just one game, I think for me it was Flacco mania. That was to me the high point of the season, because it you had this, you didn't know what was going to happen. You were looking at DTR, you were looking at PJ Walker, and you're like, okay, well, we got to get a couple of wins to get into the playoffs. And off the couch comes old Joe Flacco, 38 years old, and wins 4 or 5 games to get the Browns to the 5th seed in that that amazing game against the Jets, like you said, amazing atmosphere.
Joey,
But
hold on real quick. Like I was concerned because he did not fit the mold of the other quarterbacks we had in the room. James was not as concerned. What were your thoughts when we signed Flacco? What were your thoughts of him fitting in and what he could do?
I do not want. I was hoping no one was going to ask me this, and no one has asked. Nobody has asked me this question at all. I thought what would happen is exactly what happened. I thought Flacco was going to come in and be able to run this offense exactly like Stefanski planned him to run the offense.
Really?
He's a pocket passer. He does. he's able to sidestep, get out of the way, find the receiver. That's what good QBs do. He did it for a long time, and he had a ton of, he was getting the ball to Elijah Moore, to Amari Cooper, to David Njoku. There was like, I think there was a couple games he had, 8 or 9 different receivers had catches.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That's what Joe Flacco was able to bring to this team when they needed it. And he was able to show this is how the offense is supposed to be ran. It doesn't need to be this flashy, everything that was trying to be done before. That is exactly what I expect from a Kevin Stefanski offense by someone who's capable of running it, and Joe Flacco, just out of this world football IQ, great vision, and doesn't have the arm that he used to have, but man, did he make some just incredible throws.
Dimes.
And I think that you could attribute a lot of that to rest too, because but as soon as we signed him, I said to myself, that's one heck of a pickup, and I think all the worry melted for me when that happened.
Yeah, and we were looking for that, like even if it would have been Nick Foles, somebody with experience, and we were wondering, why are these guys out here? And then Flacco comes in. I think, to your point, Joey, is you get a quarterback that can go under center and then really sell that play action pass, which I think had a big key to making the offense successful. Just imagine the play action pass with an actual running game, because the running game just wasn't there. Unfortunately.
Yeah, Ford did his best. I really wish that we used Kareem a little more than down. I mean, guy had 12 touchdowns, I believe. I wish we used him a little bit more than we did just, on the goal line. Roger in Cuyahoga Falls, just want to let you know that we love you. But like you said, James, and you nailed it on the head. That play action, that is a absolute staple of Joe. I mean, that Joe Flacco runs that as good as anybody, and that's what we run a lot of play action here in the system, and when it's ran right, people are open. And if we got down in the game, with Joe Flacco under center, I never got worried. I was like, we can go down the field. Joe Flacco can lead this team down the field. And this is not a knock on Watson, because I also believe I believe Deshaun Watson can also lead, a healthy Deshaun Watson can lead the Browns down the field. But I do hope that Deshaun, and I'm sure he did. I'm hoping he learned from what Flacco did these, in the 6 games he was here, even in the loss. But that's how this offense needs to be ran. Hopefully we can get another weapon in as far as a receiver for next year for him. And I mean, you're going to have most of this cores coming back. I mean, a couple things you got to figure out. Za'Darius, I think, is probably the biggest thing. Za'Darius and one of your corners. That's going to be, those are your two biggest personnel issues, at least as far in my eyes, looking at next season. Do you try and re-sign Za'Darius, and how much is it going to cost? And the other one would be, do you let someone like Greg Newsome walk to save some money? Which the answer for me is no, but I also don't have to deal with the cap. So
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
There's talk of Nick Chubb's contract getting restructured, because he'll make $15 million next year. So we'll have to wait to see on that. I know Andrew Berry mentioned in the press conference, of course, they'd love to have Joe Flacco back there, but when he compared it to Jacoby Brissett of last year, that's kind of like fortune telling for me that the market's going to price him out of him being our backup. Now, I hope to God he doesn't go to Pittsburgh.
I if I'm being honest, I can't see a team really overpaying for a 39-year-old Joe Flacco. I can't see it. I think he'll get more than the minimum, but I don't think it's going to be by a whole lot. And that's it. Like I said, that's if a team wants a 39-year-old QB. I think that's we needed someone who could run this offense, and Flacco could. Stefanski knew it, Barry knew it, and I think that hopefully they learned from Jacoby Brissett, that whole situation. Josh Dobbs, Jacoby Brissett. When you got a competent backup, then you're not as worried, if your starter goes down. I like DTR. But I'm sorry, when you're a team that is looking to not just make the playoffs, but go to the Super Bowl, and we had a Super Bowl defense, right up until that Texans game. Although you can't blame 14 of those points on.
Yeah, on the defense.
Yeah. So then it's 31-14.
Right. Right. It was still a butt kicking, unfortunately.
You guys, I'll just say this before we get out of here shortly. Joey, you're frozen. I'll just say this: you guys had a lot more, and you too, Roger. You guys had a lot more faith in Flacco than I did. Again, if you looked at our quarterback room, it was full of mobile guys who could move around in the pocket, avoid sacks, and get the ball out. Whereas you bring in Flacco, he, as we've said on this podcast several times, I thought he was going to be a statue, but old fella looked kind of spry, moving around out there. So,
right. But I think that was the key. You mentioned about get rid of the ball. I think that's what really helped Joe, because Joe's throwing to open spots, whereas sometimes you see our other quarterbacks trying to hit open receivers.
True.
You know what I mean? They're throwing them open, throwing them into windows, stuff that Joe's been there and done that. And I really think that's why if somehow he'd take a home down discount to stay and really work with Deshaun, I think it could really benefit both of us, because all the quarterbacks that were missing throughout the league this year, it was an absolute dumpster fire of backup quarterbacks that we had to watch throughout the league. No matter Thursday night games, there were some terrible ones. As far as even quarterback matchups, it just, to me, Joe Flacco proved his worth, whether he's 38, 39. I think he's not going to be sitting on his couch next year.
No, I agree.
Let's just put it that way. So, and I know Joey mentioned something, used the word Super Bowl. So, Clarence, with the AFC NFC championships coming up this weekend, before we wrap up, let's take a look at those matchups. We got the Chiefs, who won at Buffalo, being the AFC championship. Who do you like in that matchup, and why?
Like either one of these teams. I can't stand Baltimore because they are the old Browns. And I sure as hell don't want to see Taylor Swift on my TV all damn week. Like, I just there you go. There you go. Our teammate, go Lions. See, I can get down with the Lions. But as far as the AFC goes, I guess the Chiefs, because I will not root for Baltimore under any circumstances. But I don't know, man. And I like the Lions, but I feel like San Francisco is probably the better team. So I'm assuming that we'll probably most likely see a Baltimore 49ers Super Bowl, but I would much rather see a Lions Chiefs Super Bowl. What about you?
I'm totally in agreement with on that, because I don't think San Francisco or Baltimore played their best game this past week. I think they both, they looked a little bit slow. Like I said, we talked about that playoff intensity, trying to come up with that after that time off, having that bye week. Yeah, I'm all about. I want the Lions. I agree, Derek. It is go Lions. I think Browns fans would love to see the Lions fans celebrate, get them in the Super Bowl. But I believe San Francisco is going to play their best football this weekend. And unfortunate, I think, for the Lions, that's not going to be good enough for them to win on the road in San Francisco. And Kansas City, I'd love to see you keep going. But I think the Ravens, same way, are going to come out and pull that off. Now, if they start turning Lamar over, then we can talk, because that Chiefs defense keeps showing up. And,
Yeah, true.
there's multiple times Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl championships on that roster. It's tough to kill the heart of a champion. And if there's any team that's tough enough to do it, it's John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens. Unfortunately, I hate saying that. It's terrible, but yeah, I'm going to say both home teams win. Baltimore, San Francisco Super Bowl.
Yeah, not really. I don't want to watch that. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I will, but Detroit and whoever. That's where I'm at. Detroit and whoever. 'Cause again, I have no desire whatsoever to see the Ravens, or the Chiefs. So, on that note, James,
Well, I
is
got
there
one
anything
more
else?
question. Yes, there's
Oh
one
yeah,
more
yeah,
event
right.
this
Let's
weekend.
go. Let's go.
Saturday on Peacock, the Royal Rumble.
Oh,
If the
Dean, you in here
Cleveland
still?
Browns, see, I don't know. Yeah, if Dean's here, I don't know if Joey jumped back in, but
Joey's computer died. He said so.
if the Browns had a Royal Rumble, and if anybody doesn't know, it starts out with two wrestlers in the ring, and then another wrestler comes in behind it. I believe it's every 3 minutes. If the Browns took their top 30 toughest guys in a Royal Rumble, who do you have winning that Royal Rumble off the Cleveland Browns roster?
Huh.
You're in the ring. You're down to your last two guys. Who's the two toughest guys going at it to win the Rumble of the Cleveland Browns?
The two toughest? I would say number one, you got Big Thanos. Ain't nobody pushing him over the top rope. It's not happening. Ain't no way nobody's getting big 6'8", 350 DeJuan Jones over the top rope. It's not happening. And then I'm going with Chubb, man. Healthy Chubb, ain't nobody getting him over the top rope. Who you got?
No way.
Ain't nobody getting
We got two guys on the team. One that Joey mentioned earlier, Wyatt Teller, who has pictures carrying an alligator in the swamp. If he can pick up an alligator and put him over his shoulders, he can definitely pick up one of his teammates and toss him over the top rope. And then another guy who is one of the best in the league, Myles Garrett, who fights dinosaurs in his off time. I think those two would be the final two going at it to win the Royal Rumble, with the winner being Myles Garrett.
I like that one. I like that one. I can't fault your arguments whatsoever. I'm a big Thanos guy, so I'm hoping that he's going to lock down one of the tackle positions for the remainder of his career. But I like that. I like that question. If you're watching, go ahead and hit us up on Twitter. Tell us who you think would win a Browns Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
I like
also,
that one, Ben.
yeah, one last shout out to Sports Illustrated. Been around for a long time through many of our childhoods. This is one of my favorite issues ever. Never forget when the Browns were in the playoffs, won this game that I was at versus the Jets. And this came out, and this was a tough issue to get, obviously, in Northeast Ohio at that time. And I remember, waiting, and, my buddy had a subscription, and I think it was every, Thursday, I think they'd come in the mail. and
Mhm.
so many great stories in there, so many great covers. My buddy Tim used to put all the Jordan covers, cut them off, and make like border paper on top in his room with all the different Jordan covers, even though we were Cavs fans. And it really looked really neat. And we'll miss those issues coming out. But yeah, rest in peace, Sports Illustrated, and thanks
The
for all
Bible,
the great covers.
the sports Bible. You would wait, like James said, you would wait weekly to come out and read articles. Everything wasn't so instant that like we have it right now, where somebody puts out an article and boom, it's in your face within 30 seconds of them writing it. Things weren't like that. You would wait weekly to see that Sports Illustrated cover, and you pray, hopefully maybe the Cavs are going to be on the cover this week. Terrell. I remember the Terrell Brandon cover, called him the best point guard in the league. I remember the when the Tribe was on the cover. I believe it was Brooks. Was it Corey Snyder and maybe Brooks Jacoby?
No, Joe Carter.
Corey, Joe Carter. That's right, Joe Carter. Joe
It
Carter.
was
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
Indian Uprising edition, 1987. I believe
Yeah.
it wasn't long after this Ozzy
Mm-hmm.
edition.
The LeBron Chosen One covers.
Yep.
Yeah, the OJ murder cover. I mean, so many iconic moments were covered on Sports Illustrated, and you just, like I said, it was a different time period. You had to sit back, wait for that to arrive. Read all these long form stories about sports. I almost like it better that way, because now we got Twitter, and every ass has an opinion and we get to see it, and some 99% of those I don't want to see.
Yeah.
I'd rather go on Sports Illustrated and read the articles from esteemed writers and people in the know than some of the stuff we deal with today. But again, as James said, RIP Sports Illustrated. You will be missed. It's been a while since I'm not going to lie. It's been a while since I had a physical copy of Sports Illustrated. I know they had. I'm not even sure if they produced them. I know they did digital, but rest in peace, just long form sports journalism like that, because it'll probably never be this way again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so many great covers, and definitely miss them. But yeah, let's wrap up this week. We really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. There's going to be more coming as long as Believe Land Media Network Live. We're up and running, and we're going to be doing Guardians of the CLE podcast, looking to wrap up and recap the Guards Fest that happened over this weekend. Maybe Kevin Sleds, the Godfather of Believe Land, can share some pictures here, and maybe we can get those as part of our StreamYard broadcast here. So, but yeah, continue to follow us all on social media. We appreciate anybody watching on YouTube. Roger, thank you. Derek, Joey, thanks for coming on. And Dean, yep, we'd love to have you back up. So hopefully we can get you in there.
Well, see, it's rumors of
go.
Spectrum coming out here next week. That's
all right.
Let's keep them crossed so we can bring our guy Dean back in.
That's right. You see that Spectrum truck on your street, Dean? Don't let him leave for you. You hold him down. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. Continue to follow Believe Land Media across all social media platforms. Clarence, thanks for jumping in with us tonight and having another great live show. Let's keep this thing going. And thank you for everything, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for sliding in, my man. We're gonna keep this thing going. We're only gonna get bigger and better. We've hit the off season now, so we might try and get back with you guys next week after the AFC and NFC title games. Maybe do a little Super Bowl preview. But after that, we'll probably be coming to you every 2 weeks, or on an emergency basis. If some crazy Browns news breaks or something like that, we'll be there for you. But it is now that time. In the words, the Cavs are dropping a bomb on Orlando right now, up by 26. In the words of the guy that Alabama should have hired to be their head coach, Freddie Kitchens. If you don't wear brown and orange, you don't matter. Peace, y'all. Go Browns.
Thanks. Go Browns. Take care, everybody. Thank you.